Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 176, and I'm delighted to be joined today by the author of Smell of Football, Mick Rathbone. Mick, how are we doing?
Wow, 176 choice was I. Thank you for that. Jesus, I can't live forever, you know. I'm nearly 64. Jeez. I'm usually people's first choice for this kind of thing. Well, hey, I made the top 200. So
that's true, mate. That is true. Well, you've been hard to track down all this time. That's been it.
Yeah. I've been busy retiring. I've retired for the last 5 consecutive years. It's fantastic, Ben, because you get loads of praise, nice cards, and you get like presents and stuff. And I realised about 5 years ago, I was away with England and I retired. And I got a shirt and champagne and a lovely card and a few tears, actually. I realised you could actually make a living out of just leaving clubs. And then I left Forest and got a really expensive Paul Smith bag and a watch. And I left Everton last year and I got a beautiful Hugo Boss credit card and a beautiful watch. And then I've just left Salford and I got a lovely whip round and a card and that like. So I've actually made a career out of leaving clubs.
So who's next then, mate?
Very lucrative.
Who's next?
Woo. Do you know what? I retired last Saturday. God, it's been the longest day of my life today. I'm so bored. No. Funnily enough, there is something in the pipeline, so I'll probably keep going. You have to keep going. Somebody said to me once, this great analogy: professional football, when you're in it, you want out, and when you're out, you want in. And I would say it's a great truth because you do miss it. It is your life. It's in your blood. I'd be at Salford today. I would probably just be coming in from the grass session. I'd have been out with the lads who were fantastic, kicking, running, jumping, running with the injured lads, doing the soft tissue, back to the ground for a cup of tea. You know, great days, great stuff. And today's like, obviously, I didn't have to get up and do that. And I did miss it a bit. I'm not joking, mate. Strange.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? Because a lot of people talk about that when they either step away from the game into something else or whether they do retire or whatever it is. Like, people often talk about that. So there's obviously some sort of attraction in with the chaos as well.
Yeah, and I think you're usually dead within a year of retiring. So that makes me very reluctant.
Brilliant. Well, mate, you've mentioned there about some of your obviously current roles, former roles. Can you give us a whistle-stop tour of where you've been and what you've been up to that's led you up to the role with Salford so far?
God, I left school, played for Birmingham City, my local club, played there for a few years, played in the top division, England Youth International, transferred to Blackburn in 79, 300 games, went to Preston, played about 70 games for them, packed in, went to university, became a physio, started working at Preston, 7 great years with David Moyes. Sorry, I missed out the Halifax bit. Went to Preston with Moyes, promotion. Everton, 8 years there. Left Everton, sacked. Then went to, did some time at Coventry City. Then I worked with the England teams. Then I went to Blackpool. Then I went to Wigan. Then I went to Nottingham Forest. And I worked in the Caribbean. Went back to Everton. Went to Crawley for a couple of weeks in between. I just finished at Salford.
That was impressive. Not only the career, but the fact you got through that so quick.
And in all seriousness, loved every minute of everyone. And whether you're pulling on, I missed that Man United. And whether you're pulling on, and that is quite ironic too. But I pulled on a Man U shirt with MR on, Everton shirt with MR on, England shirt with MR on. But I've also pulled on a Crawley shirt with MR on, and enjoyed it just as much. And a Salford shirt with MR on, enjoyed it as much. Felt the responsibility and the respect and the history of every shirt I pulled on, and probably that is the secret. And it's great running around at Finch Farm in Carrington. But you know what? I loved running into the wind and the rain at Blackpool's training ground too, in the very thin shirts they supplied in January. So it's all good, isn't it? You know, it's all good. There's no bad side to it. You know, I think Brian McClare at Man U said to me once, you know, he said, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life. And I've been blessed to be in that situation, to be honest.
Yeah, great point. And in there was a brief mention of Caribbean. Where was that?
Yeah. When I left Forest, I'd hardly had time to Google the price of my Paul Smith bag. and I got a phone call from my ex-physio from Everton, Danny Donachie, and his dad had got a gig. A gig's the wrong word, isn't it? He got a job managing a small Caribbean island called Montserrat. I knew all about it, actually. I knew about the tragedy that happened to it, and I knew about it because it was a recording studio in the 80s for some of the biggest British groups. So I kind of knew about it, and we went over there and it had some amazing times over there. So, yeah, I've been very, very lucky. Very lucky, Ben. And the secret of being lucky and keeping being lucky and riding your luck is probably appreciating that you are lucky.
Well, I don't think it's all about luck, though, is it? There's obviously...
And I was bald at 26. So that's unlucky. I just balanced it out, didn't it?
I don't think it'll be right to get you on with the experience that you've got, the knowledge you've got, and also the experiences that you've gone through with players, managers, and all the staff members that you've come across, without asking how you feel sports science support, medical support has progressed over the years that you've been within the game, maybe positive and negative as well.
You know what? We had a game at Salford recently. The doc was off. The doc might not have been able to come to the game. We were worried. Could we manage a League Two game with just 2 physios, a sports scientist and no doctor? And I was telling the lads about when I played in the youth team at Birmingham in the 70s. And the physio for those games was the coach. And he had a bag with water and a sponge. And he had no medical qualifications at all. And that was a Premier League first division club in those days. And that was the medical coverage back then. So it's changed a lot. Obviously, it's changed for the better. As you know, if you've read the books, I struggled with sports science a lot because I felt it was taking something away from me and being jack of all trades. And I can't remember which book it is. I tell a story about when I was at Preston with Moisey. We're flying through the divisions, going ever upwards, and sports science was just starting to come in. And Big Sam had really got it going at Bolton. And we signed Colin Hendry on loan from Bolton. They were in the division above. We were in probably the Championship. They were in the Prem like. And I knew Colin. I played with Colin. But Colin come across, and he was keen to know what the setup was like. And he knew I was a physio, obviously. And he said to Moyes, he said, sports science. And Dave went, well, Baz does that because he's playing, he's fit and all that, like, you know. And Colin went, yeah, that's fair enough. Do we have a chiropractor? And Moyes goes, well, Baz does the necks and backs after training. He's pretty good at stuff like that. And Colin went, fair enough. Chiropodist, he was, yeah, Baz, if you go back in the afternoons, like Baz will trim your toes and nails and stuff like that. And Massa, it's Baz. So it was a nice story and a true story, but it was important to me that I could be that kind of jack of all trades. And when the new people when I went to Everton, it was the first time I'd had staff. So I'd gone from being a one-man band in the lower leagues to all of a sudden, I'm at Everton now, 2002. There's a couple of physios, a doctor and a masseur, and they're my staff. I've got staff now. And I found it really difficult. And Jimmy Coe was a close friend of mine, and he's still there now all these years on at Everton. He's invaluable to that club. And I found it really difficult to watch Jimmy massaging the players when I should be doing that. And I found it really difficult at first. This is 20 years ago, to watch somebody else cutting my players' toes. They're my toes. But it came on, and I found it really difficult to accept. And my lad left home and he went to play at Man U, and he lived over there. And we was clearing out his room one day. And I got home, my wife was clearing out his bedroom. And I got home, my wife was really upset. And I said, what's the matter? She said, oh my God, you'll never guess what I found in Oliver's room. I'm thinking, oh my God, drugs? She went, no, it's not drugs. I said, pornography. She said, no, look. And it was a mat and a foam roller and a couple of elastic bands. And I was shocked, and I'm thinking, I would have preferred if it would have been drugs. But of course, because I was so old-fashioned, you know, and back in them days, I never used to warm up or do stuff like that. We just used to go out, join in, run. We didn't cool down. We didn't recover. And it was an anathema to us. We were topped up with beer, you know, that magical energy drink beer. And there was no sports science. And me and my generation found it very, very difficult to adapt and to adopt sports science. And I talk about it in my book. And I saw it done very badly as well, so that didn't help. And then as time went on, I saw it done better, and then I saw it done exceptionally well. And it started off when I was doing the England trips, because you're going all over Europe, and there's me, a doctor, and a sports scientist, 3 medical people really, support staff, and the manager and the coach and all the players and that. And you become close personally and friendly wise. And I realised very quickly that the sports science stuff was really important to that guy, that it was done right and that. And I respected him because he'd been to university as well. And I helped and he helped me, and I started to understand it more and probably not fear it. Let's be honest, Ben. I didn't fear it. It wasn't going to brush me out of the game. You still need a physio. And I became really close to the sports science guys. Then when I went to Forest, I saw it done brilliantly well. And I saw it done by a lad called Nathan Beardsley and Chris Thorpe. Nathan's with the England rugby team now, and I think Thorpe, he went to the Middle East and that. And I saw it done cleverly, and I saw it done measuredly, and I saw it with an understanding of the individuality of human beings. And one size didn't fit all. And you know what? It was raining, and we did lose the last couple of games. We're not feeling great, and it is Sunday morning. And you know what? Let's let the lads go home. Let's not go in the gym today, because I can tell the lads aren't up for it. And I saw it done very, very cleverly. I then went back to Everton, and I saw Jason O'Keefe do it very, very cleverly as well, and saw him understand that, look, these are human beings. They're not paradigms. And, you know, if it just didn't fit and it just didn't feel right. And we looked at the players in training. Yeah, the metrics suggest they're not done a lot, but we can see they're tired and that. And when I saw it done with this balanced view, and again, the guy, John Lucas, who's amazing, the guy at Salford, when I saw it done really, really well, it cleverly, and with a deference to the fact that, yeah, this is how it works, but these guys are still warm, breathing human beings, and we have to add that into the equation. I started becoming a real big advocate of it. I saw it done really well by Kevin Gibbons at Rochdale with my son. And my son went from Man United, and he was about 2 foot tall. He was 19. Of course, he wasn't 2 foot tall. He was about 5'2" though, and he was 19, and he weighed about 55 kilograms, and he was light, and he was lacking in muscle and power, and he couldn't possibly have a career in professional football. And I saw Kevin Gibbons take Oliver, with Oliver's consent and hard work too, because he was doing the work. And I saw him over 2 or 3 years, with natural evolution and growth as well. I saw them turn Oliver into an extremely powerful, quick, aggressive midfield player. And he's now at Rotherham doing well and playing all the games and that. And that, if I didn't need to know, was the strength of sports science. And I stopped hating, so not the right word, decrying sports science, sniffing at sports science, because I played 450 games and I had 10 pints after the game. Didn't do me. I took all that out of it, and I saw it done really, really well, and I became a good advocate of it. Any job done badly is bad. You know, somebody paints your house bad, it's bad. It doesn't mean decorators are bad, does it? I saw sports science done not great in the early days, and I saw it done brilliantly well. And I say the guys I've been lucky enough to work with recently, and I'll add John Lucas right to that list now at Salford. I saw it done really well with a smile and understanding that these are human beings. And as I say, I became a big advocate. And without sports science and you know the gym work, particularly the S&C, my lad could not have reached the level he's at now. No chance.
It's really interesting, but I think you're dead right. It's all about experiences, isn't it? And it's being open to the fact that that experience is not necessarily the definitive answer about the whole of sports science or the whole of whatever it is. It's just that one experience. I was just going to get you to expand on that, Mick, as well, because you've said, obviously, and luckily we've had a few of those practitioners on that have done an amazing job, like you've mentioned about, but I'll be chasing a few more as well. Obviously, without naming names, when we look at the opposite of that, when it's not done well, what are some things that sports scientists that are listening to this right now should be aware of from your point of view, where it's like, this needs to be done better?
Well, just that dogma, isn't it? Like, you know, so I've seen it with a few sports scientists who are probably much better now and much more rounded as the games come on. But I've saw it being rigid, and we are doing, I don't know, we are doing 12 box to boxes and 200 press ups today. And even if he's saying his hamstring's tight, we're doing it because we're doing it. And I've got here on my laptop what you need to do today, and you need to do that today because that's what the science tells me you need to do. And you will go in the ice bath, whether you want to or not. Then I see people much more smart, and especially with the England teams, I would say, right, it's a recovery day. So here's your options. There's an ice bath. I know some people loathe them, but there's also the foam rollers there. There's also a little bit of there's some bikes there as well. So what we'll say now is, look, let's do a 40-minute session, and let's say we'll all do 3 out of the 4 options and that, So I saw it done just better, and I saw it not something to be dreaded by players, and even clever use of terminology like now the warm-up, which in my day was to be endured and minimised, is now first contact, first practice. And psychologically, that makes things a lot better. And it's not just warming the players up now, it's switching them on. It's getting all the chatter out the way. I used to do all the warms. I join in as well with the players and the sprints and stuff like, often the fitness coach, when we did the sprints at the end, where it was blue, red, orange, he whispered to me what it was. I'd get a flyer, get the gold medal, even though I was 60. That was a buzz. That John Lucas did it a couple of times last week, even. Little whisper, what, Baz? White. So ready and bang, I've got a yard of only one. So when it's done with a smile, and when people understand and people buy into it, and that, the guy who's at Leicester now, oh God,
Is it Matt Reeves?
Reevesy, brilliant. I saw him do it with England because I wouldn't want to be the fitness coach. I don't want to warm the players up because players don't really want to do that. But I saw Reevesy do it every day with enthusiasm and a smile. I've seen sports scientists do it, and their body language is just underlining the fact that this is a bind, actually. It's a necessary evil. Nobody wants to do it. It is raining, blah, blah, blah. And as I say, more recently, I've seen it done with verve and vigour and a smile and a laugh. And John Lucas brought this brilliant thing in a few months ago at Salford. It was like a missile that he could throw. It had like an arrow on the end of it and a ball on the front. And he started off with that program on Netflix where they all end up getting killed in Korea.
Squid Game.
Squid Game and that. And he brought stuff like that in. And he made it fantastic and enjoyable. And I'd always join in. And I think, yeah, you're not going to begrudge this now. And that's how it's changed. And I say, back in the day, when I played for Blackburn in the 70s and 80s, the warm-up was literally a 10-minute jog around the park, a few stretches, and then straight into training. And as I say, it's more complicated now. It's done better. For example, I'm going to say even at Salford. I don't want to decry Salford, but Salford's a League Two club. But even at Salford now, the lads are in the nutritional status. They're doing urine tests some days and that. Then we're going into the gymnasium. They're doing the pre-activation, and then we're all meeting on the grass, ready to go and that. So even Salford, and I say that as a League Two club, not the people or anything else about the club negatively, we've got that boxed off very, very well. So I think it's evolving, and I look at it now. I don't know how we could manage with that, to be perfectly honest. And before John Lucas came to Salford, Yulmore Winnie was there, fantastic guy, really good as well, very wise, very less is more approach to sports science, very, very good. And after he left and before Luke's came in, there was, I think, 10 days, and I took over as a sports science, and I got the shock of my life because I hadn't realised how much work there is. I know there's the warm-ups, but I had to do that. I wanted to be different every day. I wanted to hit certain parameters. I wanted to make sure we got the distances in training. Bloody hell, I haven't got the drinks out. Bloody hell, I haven't got the recovery drinks out. Bloody hell, I didn't realise, but I've not got the ice baths on. And I saw, I didn't think they were skivers exactly, but I saw in that week, Jesus, they've got some work, as well as having the responsibility to lift the session every day and make sure that first practice is absolutely great. They've actually got a lot of stuff to do as well. So I got a bit of a shock, to be fair.
Brilliant. Mick, I was going to ask as well, obviously experience in the Premier League, experience in the Football League with numerous clubs. I think it'd be great to go in for the listeners and get your views on the differences, obviously the difference in leagues, but the demands in your role as well, from working at Premier League level, obviously England as well, and then Football League level, some of the key differences through working through those different leagues.
Just got more stuff, haven't they? I was really, when I was at Everton early on in the 2003, 2004, then 8 years where I was the head of the medical department, I was bad to the fitness coaches, not on purpose. I didn't mean to be. I was disrespectful, not on a personal level. I thought it was a load of bollocks, a load of rubbish. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear.
No, you can swear, mate.
I thought it was rubbish. I thought it was rubbish. It was taking away my importance. Since then, I've seen Dave Billows, who's now at West Ham. We're very close friends. I've apologised to him. There's a lad called Steve Tashian, who's back in the States now. When I look back, they were very good, and their job meant as much to them as mine meant to be. I've apologised to them many times for not respecting them enough, and I wouldn't make that mistake again. In terms of what's the difference higher up, it's just there's more stuff, isn't there? But you know something interesting as well? There still has to be a human touch to it all. We can look at the stuff on the screen, and we have live telemetry going now during Salford's games and stuff. So that's how far we've come at Salford under Luke's and that. But you also need an old-fashioned approach. And let me tell you this kind of apocryphal tale. Many years ago, we were at Belfield, God, so it's 20 years ago. And we had an Italian fitness coach, a really nice guy. And we were doing the last day of the running in pre-season. And it was the dreaded horseshoes. You start at one corner flag and you run essentially around the pitch till nearly the whole lap. You finish off at the corner flag 50 yards away behind the nearest goals. You've got 45 seconds to get in. Your recovery is you walk across, maximum 1 minute, you go again. I think Phil Neville spoke about it. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Anyway, the Italian guy's there, and I'm not denigrating him. He got this new telemetry set up, and we're all, I did it myself. I always used to do the running because I was still am, but I was only in my 40s, and I was a terrific runner anyway, and I could easily do the pre-season, and I joined in and that, like, you know. And there was always the question when we finished the first one, walking across, God, how many more, that dreaded question. And on a bad day, it would be 6. And if Dave was in a good mood, we might let you off with 4. Anyway, it was a hot day and that, like, you know. So we'd done 4. Oh, got another one to do. So we're going again. We've done 5. And it's the hardest thing. It's 9 out of 10. It's so hard and that, like. Anyway, we get to 5. It's a hot day. Some are collapsed on the floor. Some lads have been sick and that, like, you know. And the Italian guy comes running across and he goes, David, my machine, their heart is working too fast. It's too much. David, come on, it's too much for these players, my heart rate and all that, you know. And what David said then is a great truth, and sports scientists should appreciate as well. And he said to the guy, he said, listen, he said, I don't give a F-U-C-K about what your machine tells you. I don't care. He goes, the first game of the season's Chelsea away, whatever it was. He goes, and I need men who can climb off the floor now, walk across for a minute and get in for that 6th time. And I need men like that. And that still remains a great truth to sports science. When John Lucas, I'm saying Lucas, it's my latest experience. When he came to Salford, he felt the players weren't fit enough. I agreed. If I'd have disagreed, I would have respected his opinion because that's his field. I agreed anyway. And we decided with the manager to train the players harder. So one day in this harder training, not merciless, but harder training, higher load, more high-speed running particularly, a lad pulled his hamstring. And the lad walked off and the lad was fuming and it's too much, it's a joke and all that kind of stuff. And Luke's was really upset. And I went to Luke's after training and I said, right, stop it. He had his head in his hands and that, like, you know. I said, stop it. We've all agreed, the manager, the senior players, you're the expert. And for what it's worth, I agree. And I've been in football since I was 16 as a player, manager, physio, head of medical, head of sports science. We need to get them fitter. Unfortunately, along the way, like making the proverbial omelette, you're going to break some eggs. So you've done nothing wrong and we're all behind you. Unfortunately, a lot of clubs, there is or was, or I've heard many stories, there is a fracture between sports medicine and sports science. And there's a feeling of, well, you're injuring my players. And I said to Lucas, train them as hard as you want. I'm right behind you. If you injure a player, we'll look after that player. We won't be saying, oh, look what Lucas has done now. He's injured one of our players. Isn't he our little TWAT? We all work together now and we build a team. We're close friends and we're all pushing the same direction. I think and hope it's like that at all clubs. But I saw that period and I guess I was involved myself, as I said before, and I saw that at clubs for many years where they're different and you know, they want different things and it's egos and that, and ne'er the twain shall meet and that. And I saw that as a fracture and a big problem at a lot of clubs. And I saw different areas of different clubs, one in the other area to fail and that, like, you know, well, he's useless. Well, you scouted him, yeah, but you injured him, yeah, but you didn't get his injury right. And I saw that a lot, unfortunately, and I heard a lot about it. I made sure that me and the fitness coach at Nottingham Forest were really close friends, and we supported each other. And me and Nathan went out on the grass with them and went in the gym with them. And I helped the masseur with the soft tissue, and Nathan would come in and help out. And we worked very much as a team, and that's how it has to be. And if there is that fracture between the two, I found it, as I told you, really, really hard. And I saw it coming in at Everton, where even the physio work became more highly technical. I worked at Everton a couple of years ago with a guy called Joe Hinnigan, who's an absolutely brilliant physio. And they, all of a sudden, I'm still out on the grass every day, being really old-fashioned and that, like, you know, but that's all it needed anyway. And I saw Joe measuring this and measuring, I don't even know what it was, reverse platform, countermeasure jumping. And I saw him measuring stuff, and I saw them take the calf strains through this, through power, through hopping, through Ultra G at 50%, through Ultra G at 60%. And you know what? I thought, you know what? This is actually fantastic, because when I take them out on the grass on day one, I know their CMJs are great, if that is appropriate. I know their power's there. I know the muscle bulk's back. I know already they've ran at 60, 70, 80, 90. So when I set off running with them, I've not got that fear of running 100 yards. Oh, it's gone again. Mm-hmm. So I learned to embrace the new technology. And what I saw a lot over the past 20 years, Ben, is I saw people refusing to embrace it. And I realised that you've got basically, and I saw it a lot with England, when Dan Ashworth came in and Dave Redding, they wanted it their way. They wanted it measured. They wanted it quantitative. They wanted it qualitative. They want it across all age groups the same. So we spent more time in the gym. We spent more time pre-activating, more time recovering. And that's how they wanted it. And a lot of the older guys didn't believe in it, didn't want it. But at the end of the day, this is how it is. And you either change or you wither on the vine. Now, I changed because I accepted it and I embraced it. I still didn't really understand a lot of it, but that's not the point, and it didn't really matter. And I respected it. And when Dave went to Real Sociedad in Spain and that, you know, I wanted to go, and he would have liked to have me over there, despite only recently sacking me a couple of years before. And I spoke about going, and it didn't work, and they didn't need a medical, and there was talk of me doing maybe the sports scientist. And I said, no. I said, I don't understand it. I'm not a sports scientist. I don't have a degree in sports science. And yeah, I understand that if you overtrain players to get injured. I understand you need to. I understand it, but I don't have a degree in it. I'm not qualified to do it. And I'm not disrespecting people by taking a job that I'm not qualified to take. And that. So as I say, I learned, and as I say, Dave Ring and Dan Ashworth, they brought this in probably 2010, 2011, 2012, much more pro sports science approach. I didn't really want it, understand it, I'm not going to say didn't appreciate it, didn't embrace it, but you know what? And I'm only saying, we can only look at results. My God, those teams went to the next level. We won the 17s in Malta, Would we won it without the sports scientists? Don't know. Possibly, but don't know. I can only judge on results. Then they won the World Cup, and they had a golden period. I've lost touch now because I left 6 or 7 years ago. But they had a golden period where the English teams won everything. Yeah. So I can only say, and if they'd have lost everything, we can only judge by results, can't we? Is it working? Well, what are results like? It's crude, it's probably not fair, but they won everything. So I would say to Dave Redding and to Dan Ashworth, and I didn't really know Dave Redding, he weren't around our groups much, but Dan Ashworth was always around, always supportive. And what they brought in, I have to say, worked. It worked. And as I said, a lot of people in my age group, the old-fashioned people, like, you know, they didn't change and they didn't accept and they didn't absorb it. Now, I would say I did all the outside stuff, and I would say to Jason O'Keefe at Everton, because I respect the guy and I like him, he's my friend anyway, and I want him to do well. He wants me to do well, and we both want Everton's 23s to do well. We all wanted to do well for the team and the players and that, like, you know. So I would say to Jason, right, I'm taking Anthony Gordon out today. He's on his way back from his hamstring strain. What we're looking at. And he'd say to me, right, I've looked at his parameters. We're looking at a total of 5K. Can we do no high speed running? Because we did 500 meters yesterday. And can we just do that today? And I would say absolutely, because I respect you and you're the expert. Now, within that total load of 5K, I've still got room to manoeuvre. So I can do loads and loads of short passing drills, a lot of sharp stuff, get his legs burned a little bit, lots of stuff like that. They want no high speeds running, and he's not at the sprint stage anyway. So I'm only doing ball, but they've asked for a total load of 5K because they want 25K this week. So why don't we start off with a 12-minute run? And that hits them 2.5, 3K already. I'll do some short, sharp, round the cone, nice, fast feet ball work. It's not putting pressure on his hamstring. It's not a sprint. We're not extending the hamstring in the upright position, and everybody's happy. I've respected him. I can still do essentially what I want then around that circuit, like, you know, and that's it. And I've seen people go out there and think, I'm doing this. He can off, like, you know, and that's poor. And it's poor, lacking respect for the fitness guys. Yeah, I did it for 7 years at Preston when I qualified, 3 years at Halifax before. So I did it for a decade with no fitness coaches, and nobody died, nobody got hurt, everybody loved it, everyone was okay. But we moved to the next level now. These guys who are my friends were there, and I respect them. And I would always do the work with the player. I then, if I sent the player in at Everton, if he'd done for the day, I'd walk over to where the lads were training, and I'd speak to Jason immediately, and I'd say to Jason, no issues, mate. He's told them parameters and that. I had the watch as well. And at first, if somebody said to me 15 years ago, you'll be wearing a watch, I'd think ludicrous. But you know what? After a while, it became really handy because I could see if they were high-speed running. I could see if they were sprinting. I could see the total distance and that. And I learned to really like it. And it was so handy with hamstring strains because we would say, right, we're now starting to hit sprint. We've done 4 or 5 consecutive days of high speed. We're hitting 70, 75. Need to hit 80 today. But I can guess what's 80 in that and what's 85 of that. But not as good as the watch can do it. And I had the watch on and I'd do a few with the player side by side. I look at it and I think, wow, that's great. Or I might think, wow, that's actually only 75. Let's do 1 or 2 more, a little bit more now, bang 80 and that, like, you know. And then the next day I'll go out and we're doing, we're hitting 85 today, we're hitting 90 and that, we're hitting 95 today. And it was so handy. So I'm actually now embracing all the stuff that, you know, I found in my son's room and wanted to call the police. So I'm now embracing all that stuff, Ben. And do you know what? It was great and it was better. And we use that thing on the muscle. It cuts off the blood supply for a couple of minutes and that. And I saw how hard it was with that on. And I saw that burning. And I thought, you know what? I don't think I could have put on a session, 1 leg cycling, 1 leg squats to get that gain and that. So I started to enjoy it and like it. Now, I can still take the lads in the pool and we can have our 30-length races and a laugh and a joke and stuff and that. It wasn't devaluing me like I thought it would do all them years ago. It wasn't restricting me, you know. So I learned to love it and really embrace it, and see it as a really important part of the overall picture now.
It's such an interesting area of discussion now. I think it just comes back to the middle ground, doesn't it? You've used a couple of words there, by the way, repeatedly, which I think are so important. One was trust and one was just respect for fellow professionals, who whatever the role is. But I think we get drawn into like the very data driven approach and then the sort of human approach and experience maybe. And you've just talked about combining both of those and taking every situation as it comes and deciding what you can do at that time. And it's so interesting to hear those stories. I think it's so valuable for coaches to hear.
You need to be humble as well. I'll tell you a really good story. Years and years ago, there was an England camp. We were at St George's Park for a week. We played a couple of games. I can't remember, somewhere. I might have played at St George's Park. I don't know, against Belgium. I don't even know what year group it was. And we're now in the era of good, proper warm-ups. So we go in the gym before training. Some lads would have programs from the clubs, which I would oversee for different injuries they were carrying. And the fitness coach would do a bit of his stuff and that, like, you know. We're getting ready to go out on the grass and stuff. Afterwards, we'd go in and we'd do ice baths. Or if not, you can get in the pool with Baz. That's me. And just do some stretching off in there. So either or. Some lads don't like it, you know, lads have got really low body fat, feel the cold, obviously, like they don't want to go in. That's okay. You can go into the pool next and do some, you know, so all the bikes are by the pool as well. So I'm not going to say there's no escape, but there's a selection of things to satisfy and suit everybody's recovery requirements. So we had a really good week there. But we played the last game. Then the last morning, we were getting up, breakfast, team meeting, recovery. And I put it to the sports science guy. I said, look, you know what? It's a lovely day. We've done loads of recovery. I've been in the pool every day. We've done all that ice bath. We've done loads of recovery, loads of preparation. The camp's over now. We played the last game. Is there an argument tomorrow? Up, breakfast, team meeting, and a good 45-minute walk down to the gates of St George's Park in the sun and back? And he said, no, we're doing proper recovery, which is okay. But I think there's a great argument there for saying, of course, that makes perfect sense. It's nice. It's a feel-good factor rather than, right, you've had your lunch, you've had your team meeting, everybody down to there now, get changed, gym, bike, in the pool, in the ice bath. I think that would have been common sense and a nice humanistic approach to end a really successful camp. But he said, no, we hit these parameters today. Okay, not an issue. I didn't go around saying to the players, he's near 12. I said, when the players pulled the face, I said, no, let's do it properly, you know. Yeah. And that's another thing as well. You have to support each other. And it's really interesting. When I first got to Everton, my very first day, and had my very, very first staff, I got these guys who are now very close friends of mine, and that, you know, the old Dark and Jimmy Coburn and Danny and Matt Connery, who are flying now in the world of sports medicine. And I sat them down. I said one thing. I said, look, guys, I've not had staff before. If you don't like something I'm doing, say it to my face. Don't say it behind my back, because if you say bad things about me behind my back to the players, you'll make me look bad, but you'll make yourselves look worse. And that's a great truism. We had a lad called Rodrigo, who's from Brazil, and lovely guy, done his cruciate, and Matt Connery got a great trip back to watch the surgery in Rio and spent 10 days over there. Yeah. So Matt got a bit like, you know. But Rodrigo said to me one day, he goes, Buzz, and I'm thinking, it's Baz, but Buzz will do. He goes, I never seen this. I never seen it where all the physios so good friends and such good friends and that, and would not say bad things and support and agree and are close and that. I never seen that at any other club. And that's a very important thing. And I've always driven that home and stuff wherever I've worked and that. And I've said, you know, always to my staff, because I've usually gone in his head and had staff and that. And I've always said the same thing, and that we support each other. And like, if there's me, well, I'm not at Salford now, me and a young lad called Steve Vaselicus, Aussie guy, unbelievable, 23 years of age. He acted older than me. And people would say, Baz, which one's 63 and which one's 23? Because he was old before his time. But I told him that story from day one. I said, Steve, you know, one thing we learn and about the fitness people as well, Luke's, there was only me, Steve, and Luke's and that, like, you know, we all worked, we supported each other, we helped each other. If he needed stuff moving, we moved it. We helped him shift the gear. He helped us shift our gear. Like, you know, if somebody needed an extra pair of hands, Luke's was there and that. We worked great. We're close friends. Went to for coffee together. We'll be friends forever and that. But I said to that Steve on the first day, because Steve's very new, first full-time job at a club and that. And I tried to help him and teach him. And I said things like that. You know, we don't criticise the players and that, you know. And I say, like, you know, if you make a mistake, Steve, which he never did, and a player re-injures because you did too much with him, I don't go to Gary Bowie or Dave Moyes back in there or Mark Warburton and say, oh my God, Steve Velasquez has effed up. I don't say that. I don't throw him under the bus. I say, David, Gary, whoever it may be, I said, apologies, it's been a mistake in the medical department. We pushed the player too hard, he's broke down, it's going to be another week. Now the manager's going to go, effing hell, blah, blah, blah. I can't actually remember that ever happening one time in 25 years with a player at Everton. And I said, look, misdiagnosis, it's going to be another couple of weeks. And Moyes was great. He said, yeah, that happens, Baz. We all make mistakes and that, like, you know, but, you know, come on. That can't happen. It happened once in 8 years, 15 years with Dave and that, like, you know. But that's how we work it. I don't go in like some physios do and say, oh God, look what he's done. Look, he's broken that player. Oh my God, his knee terrible and that. You don't do that. That's not being a leader. That's not being a team player. So simple, common stuff. Leadership, isn't it? You know, you lead from the front, and that if there's a mistake, it's our mistake. The bad news is told by me. I don't send, you know, the junior physios up to tell the bad news. Although there wasn't any. Like, I work on Christmas Day and I let my staff have that day off. That's just good leadership. And as I say, we support each other. We understand each other's ambitions and pride in their job as well. We don't undermine them, like, you know. And if Luke's puts on a running session, a player pulls his hamstring, the player was devastated. I get that. He pulled your hamstring. It's going to be, actually, it was only 2. It was nothing. It was 2 weeks and that. I go off with the player, give him some bag of ice, assess it and that. I'm not walking back to the stadium with that player saying, isn't John Lucas a prick because he did damage your hamstring? You know, maybe the player wants to get me involved in that. But, you know, I would say, no, we've agreed you're not fit enough. You would say you're not fit enough. There's only one way to get you fitter. It's a minor injury, be back in a week, 10 days. So come on, this is what we're trying to do for you. And when we do extra work and we run the players and that, and we train them hard and that, and they're grumbling all the time and that, like, you know, Luke's is on the bottom with the stopwatch and that. I'm probably doing the running with the players and that. It's an easy shot to, when the players are moaning, this is ridiculous, it's ridiculous, got a game Saturday. I say, listen, guys, we could all go home. Me and Luke could be sat having a coffee now and a cake in Starbucks and that. But we're here in the rain, in the cold. We're doing this because we want the best for you. And we believe this is the best for you. We could have all gone home half an hour ago. We could be sitting in Starbucks now with a nice cinnamon buns, my favourite, flat white and that. But no, we're here on the grass, in the mud, in the wind, in the rain, because we believe it's the right thing to do. And you know what? I've never met a player yet who didn't say, I don't agree, they've all gone, you know what, begrudgingly, full marks to you. And it's all done for the best of the players. And I always include the players as well. And the fitness guys do, right, this is what we think. You 3 lads have had not very many minutes because you've been on the bench and that, like, you know. So what we're going to do, we're going to do some running. We want you to open up. We've got the GPS. We want you to open up now. And we want you all to hit 400 metres of high-speed running. And the reason is this, because when you don't hit high-speed running, you don't stretch your hamstrings and that, and you're more prone to injury. That's been proven in numerous. So here we are. You lads didn't play Tuesday. We're not letting you slip through the net. We're not letting you become detrained. You might not want to do this now. The lads have gone, it's raining and that, but you're doing it. And that's it. And the lads will always go, you know what? Yeah, I get that. I'm having that. And as I say, that argument, look, we could be saying Starbucks now with a cinnamon bun and flat white. That's a very strong argument. And no player will ever argue against that. We're out in the rain. We could have, you know, we've done some laps, we've done some stretching, we've done some bodies, we've done some core work. We're out on the grass now. It's half an hour. The lads are all at home now. They've gone. The lads who played and that. We're staying out because we need to do this. And players will, and you're going to, and the lads who played are off tomorrow. You lads are in tomorrow, and it's going to be a hard session. And that's because we want you to maintain your fitness levels. That's it. And most players, if they're worth a salt, are not going to argue with that. And as I say, it's about including the player. Maybe the days of not including the player, because if you say to him, go and run through that brick wall, he's daft enough to do. The players are more tuned in, they're more understanding, they're more questionable, they're more questioning. Many times I'd take a player, even at League Two level, and say, we're doing that. And they would say, well, why are we doing that? I said, because of that. Players are more tuned in and are more like to ask questions than that. And as I say, when I'm with Steve and we're discussing the rehab with a player or the sports science, I would always say, look, this is what we think. We think this is a relatively minor. We don't do scans really at Salford and that. So we think it's a minor knee injury. I know it's sore now. I get that. We expect you to be cycling pain-free in 2 days. Have no issues walking down the stairs in 2 days either. We think you'll be running in a straight line with 0 symptoms in 4 days, 5 days. Then we introduce the ball. We think you'll be back playing in 2 weeks. Now, I can't see inside your knee. If we get to 4 days and you're not running pain-free, then I'm only human. I've made mistakes. Then we'll reassess that and maybe get the club to pay for a scan, and the players will have that all day long. And if in 4 days' time, and I can't think of an example where it's not gone well, if in 4 days' time that player's saying, you know what, I don't like this, right, let's get a scan then. Oh, look, it was that what we thought it might be, thinking outside the box. And the players will have that. But when you're pedantic, when you're regimented, well, you will do this, you know, that's what we're doing today, you will do that. And, I've had a couple of times with players. There was a classic example. My kind of first year at Everton, we had a player called Alessandro Pistone, and he was reputedly a little bit difficult to deal with. And that, so he came and he had a hamstring strain, and I said to him, Sandro, I want to go out today. We're going to do a good old-fashioned 12-minute run aerobic, and then we're going to do, 8 box-to-boxes, and we're going to hit some high-speed running in the last 4. And he said, Baz, okay, but today for me, it's my legs. Today I want to concentrate on my leg strength and do no running today. Now, he's a professional football player in the Premier League. So I said to him, okay, we'll do that. And we'll do the running tomorrow, though. He went, no problem.
Yeah.
Whereas people he dealt with in the past, no, you're doing that. Don't you try and take the pee out of me. You're doing that. So it's about that sophisticated approach. Now, if he'd have come in the next day, oh, no, I said, no, we're doing the running today. No. But that didn't happen. We did the running the next day. So it is a bit quid pro quo. Include the player in the diagnosis, include the player in the rehabilitation. Discuss them. How are you feeling today? This is the plan today. What do you think? Yeah, it sounds good. And we think, and I would always say to the player when I do my rehab, listen, this is what we're doing today. It's a 45-minute session. I would grade it as a probably 7 out of 10 session in terms of how you would RPE that and that. Tomorrow it's an 8. We usually do 2 days on the grass, 1 day off. And we'd usually go a 7 and an 8, 1 day off, 7 and an 8. And that's how we do it on RPEs and that. Now, you could be very early hamstring and you can't go above half pace, but we can still do an 8 because I used to do a run where we run slow for 30 seconds and we increase the half pace for 30 seconds or even a minute. And I'd run with them and that's a blow. So you can always do, but the secret is to include the player in it, Ben, make them feel they're part of the process and not, right, you are doing this today, kind of whether you like it or not, despite how tired you may feel. So that's where we are, mate.
Mate, there's some absolute gold in that. I hope people have got their notebooks out, making notes of some of this stuff, because I think it's incredible just getting the insight, and some of the stories are absolutely brilliant, mate.
But I had to change, Ben. I had to change, to learn, and I had to adapt. And when I look back, when I think about it, in my early days of physio, we never warmed the players up. We just went straight into it. Then as I got older and, thought, wow, I don't ever pull a muscle and I don't need to warm up. And God, when I was first at Everton, when the fitness coaches were coming in, and I wasn't bad in terms of being a bad person, but when I was kind of dismissive of it, and it was all this new stuff, and the lads would be outside and they'd be stretching off and on them bands and on the rollers just outside, and I'd come out like to do my running session, and the players would say, Baz, you haven't warmed up. I say, oh, God, sorry, let me stretch my thighs. And I go to the first ball and I blast it with my left foot as hard as I could. Perfect. Then I say, right foot, I blast the first one with my right foot. Then somebody say, don't forget your hamstrings. And I go from walking to flat out sprinting. But I knew that I never got injured, like, because that was how I was made. But as I got older, I looked back, I thought that was poor, you know, that was a cheap shot at the sports science guys who I've apologized to a million times, like, you know, and I now understand that you need to warm up. You need to warm up mentally, physically, psychologically, sociologically, you know. So I understood that the first practice, that first contact was really, really important. Like, you know, sometimes it would just be on bikes, chatting and getting the nonsense, getting that win out of your system, getting that day off and a couple of days off and what you did out of your system and that. So I learned to adapt and I changed a lot.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And I know that we're literally scratching the surface on some of the content in the books, but can you give a little bit of an overview? Because you got 2 books out now. A little bit of an overview on why you wanted to do them, and then also probably the most recent one, what it's about.
Okay, so when I was a young player at Birmingham, I was really scared to play. And it was beyond performance anxiety. It was actual fear of playing. And I tell the story, people say it's the funniest thing I've ever read. It's supposed to be tragic, about my implosion as a young player. I'm playing in the top division at 17 and terrified, would rather praying for a broken leg, praying not to play. I remember stood in the corner at St Andrews, the noise, and walked up the tunnel. I remember thinking to myself, if I was getting a hand, I could not feel any worse, more terrified. So that's the thread of the first book. It finishes at the cup final at Everton when Chelsea beat us. And it's a journey. It's a journey of learning to have more confidence and believe in yourself more. That's what that one's about. I wrote it because I wanted to tell that really sad story, although people said it was really funny, but it's supposed to be sad. And the book won awards. It got great accolades. It made me very proud. And to see your book, your baby, your life story in Waterstones, in everyone in the country, is amazing to see people. I got to the long listed for the William Hill, got to the last 5 of the British Football Book of the Year to go to the Savoy Hotel. And so I had all those things as well. It gave me a lot of validation. The second book, I realised that when I left in 2010, I was at loads more clubs and loads more things were happening. But the vein, the depth of the second book is about getting older in sport and touching on these same things and being gradually more and more distant from the modern stuff and feeling old. And the metaphor was my triple operated on knee, hobbling around and stuff, and how long could I keep going on this young man's game? But it's got great stories in it, at Blackpool, at Forest, in the Caribbean with the England teams, back at Everton again, and all the other clubs in between. So it's got lots of great laugh out loud, I guess people are saying. And what I wanted, Ben, I didn't want it to be a crap version of the first book, which a lot of second books are. And I spent a lot of time designing the cover, the same amount of words as the first one. The second one's only available on the website and that. And why did I do it? Do you know what? It is ego. I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be a published author. So I've now written 2 books. And when the second book came out, it's only on the website. It's not in Waterstones. You can't get it in the shops because, to be honest, you don't make very much money that way. You make, I don't know, £1 a copy, and that it's nice. It's in Waterstones. Look at me, woo! Only 1% of people who write books get them all published and that. So look at me and that. But the second one, it's on my own website and that, and you make a lot more money per book. And it's exciting to see the books coming through every day, like, you know. But if I'm being honest, the first one was about telling the story. The second one was about being a bloody author. And I'm an author, and I wrote 2 books now. And the people who reviewed it, and it's getting reviewed by some quite big hitters in the next couple of weeks and that, like, you know, the big mags and the big people and that. But 2 journalists reviewed the second book, and they both read the first, and they both said they thought the second book was better than the first book. And I was so proud because I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think it was achievable, and that made me so proud. And I want to be Mick Rathbone, author, and I want to do a Smell of Football 3, and that's going to be coming out maybe in a year's time. And that's going to be a diary of a month in football. And that's going to be kind of a big, small book because people love the absolute trivia, the minutiae, the day-to-day nuts and bolts of it. But because I'll be leaning back and discussing how it's changed, it'll have that big, small feel. he'd be looking in minutiaely, if that's a word, at the day-to-day minutiae of being at a football club for a month, but looking back on that massive scale of how things have changed. So that's that. But as I say, that's the thread of the second book. The thread of the second book is getting increasingly old. There's a great shot. If I've got time to tell this story, so I'm getting more and more worried about being old and looking old and feeling old. Anyway, I'm working at Man U now, and I'm looking after the lads on loan, as well as going out on the pitch every day as a kind of mentor. And we have a great connection with Antwerp, Royal Antwerp, the oldest club in Belgium. Got a couple of lads on loan. So I think I'll go over and meet the manager and see the lads, make sure they're comfortable in the digs and watch a game. They're playing on a Friday night, so I fly to Antwerp and got the game. They win 5-0. And Belgian people do like beer. Anyway, I go over, I've got my Man U suit on and my Man U tie and that proud and that, like, you know. Anyway, I go in the players' lounge, supporters' lounge after the game. People are pissed. I mean, proper pissed. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Anyway, I walk in there and for some reason I've left my reading glasses on, like, you know. Anyway, they won 5-0, so it's double getting pissed. Anyway, I walk in there and I'm not famous, but I'm not unknown completely. And I am aware when there's a kind of muttering and a frisson of whispering when I walk in somewhere, like, you know. Anyway, that happened in the supporters club in Antwerp. Anyway, I'm going in there and I'm thinking to myself, God, as the smell of football made its way across the, I nearly said Atlantic, but it's Channel. Anyway, eventually there's this whispering, murmuring, and I'm stood there, like, and a guy comes over, pissed he is, like, he gets a scrumpled T-shirt out of his pocket and he goes, will you sign, will you sign? I thought, buzzing, I will sign, like, you know, so I put best wishes, blah, blah, blah. And he said, thank you, Sir Bobby. I thought, no. Are you Sir Bobby? They think I'm Bobby Charlton. I was, what, 45? He was 70. So I thought that was the worst day of my life. So
it must have just been the Man United badge. That was all it was.
And because I had my reading glasses on, so I was reading the program as well. So it was that. And there's lots more stories like that. I tell one when I had a big up on my knee, and I decided I've got to rehab it. So I joined the club in Witten Park in Blackburn, the gym in Blackburn's Park, and that, like, you know. And I go in one day, there's a couple of nurses in there at a table. Like, I'm thinking, oh, that's good. The local corporation instigating some health drives and that. Morning, I walk past, and she says, "Oh, excuse me, sir, are you heart attack or angina?" I said, "I'm 10K, 36 minutes is what I am, 50 press ups." God, heart attack or angina. So there's loads of stories like that. And I'm really proud of the book, and I love it. And I love it. It's great. And the first was great. Not my words. The second one's better. Oh my God, the third one, that's going to be. But I say you can only get it on the website.
And what's the website, Mick? Go on.
The website is www.thesmelloffootball2.co.uk. And it's really easy to order, and you click it. I sign all the copies. If you order it and come on Twitter as well, I personalise it. My wife sends them off the next day, first class, and people have been delighted with the service, and they've said some amazing things. I got a picture today, somebody lying on the beach somewhere hot saying he's loving it as well. So brilliant. It's been really well received by everybody, including the experts and that. So it's given me a great buzz, and my cup runneth over.
Brilliant.
My energy drink runneth over. My recovery, my Rego runneth over.
Now, I reached out to a few people that you've actually mentioned in the podcast so far, just to get a little bit of an insight into yourself before I did the episode. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it in a second. But one of the people said, this will be the best podcast you're going to do so far. And I'd probably put it up there, because that has been absolutely incredible. Some of the stories, the knowledge, the experience, and just how open you've been with it in terms of your views on sports science, how that's changed. I really, really appreciate you coming on and doing it, because I think there's so much value in it. And what I'd say to anyone listening, go back and listen to it again, because there's probably stuff that you missed as we went through first time. So I really appreciate you doing it, mate. But before you go, what's that?
I've really enjoyed it.
Good, good. So before you go, we always finish the podcast with a few questions on the end, and I normally call them quick fire. And I'm going to ask you them in a second. But I have got a little bit of feedback on one of them as well. The first one, which will be really interesting, I normally ask who have been some of the biggest influences on your career so far, but I'm going to narrow you down to 3 people. Can you give me 3 people that have had the biggest influence on your career so far?
All right. My wife is the best. She's amazing. She saved my life, not metaphorically. Although I nearly did. I don't think you know this, but I nearly died when I was 17. If those Birmingham City fans had got through that dressing room door, I would not be here today. So it's my wife and David Moyes, massive effect on me. And I would probably say Bob Saxton, the manager at Blackburn. Amazing guy, amazing manager. I played my best football under him. I had 15 years with David Moyes, and then it all came to an end. Did I tell you that story?
Did I
tell you the story? Oh, my God. 10th of May it was 2010. We just beat Portsmouth last game of the season, beaten 1-0 their last time in the Premier League. And things hadn't been going well between me and Dave. And he called me to his office and he just said, I could see like this didn't seem right. He just said, Baz, he said, time for the change. And I said, oh, don't go, Dave. You're doing a really good job. He said, no. He said, a change in the medical department. I said, you've never liked Matt. He said, Baz, it's not Matt. I said, Danny. He said, it's not Danny. I said, oh, hang on. I said, right, a change in the medical department, not Matt, not Danny. I said, I give up. You have to give me a clue. He goes, Baz, he's in this room now and it's not me. I'm looking behind the curtains, under the covers of the settee until the penny dropped. And do you know what he said? His final words to me, and I'll never forget this. He said, Baz, close the door on the way out, son. And that was it. 15 years gone. But it wasn't just quite like that. I did make up that story. It was all amicable, and he gave me everything a man could ever want. He gave me executive wages to allow my kids to all have new cars when they needed, go to university. He allowed me to work in the Premier League for 8 years. He allowed me to be head of medical at one of the best clubs in the world. He allowed me to go to nearly every country in the world, business class, with that fantastic shirt on. He gave me everything, that guy. So I say great things about him after the first page. And he's been the biggest influence on my career. He's an amazing guy. And I'm so pleased, as I predict in the second book, that if somebody gives him a chance, he'll show you that he's a world-class manager. So that's that question answered.
And then the next one, what would you say your biggest strength is as a practitioner?
I would say it's probably enthusiasm. And you know what? I choose my attitude every day when I wake up, and I choose to be positive, and I choose to be enthusiastic. And as I say to Steve Vass at Salford, he's 23, he's learning, he's brilliant, he's going to go at the top, and that, I say the biggest thing is enthusiasm. Because when I leave Salford, which I've left, I don't really care if the players say, oh, Baz was a crap physio, or Baz was terrible at putting strappings on, or Baz was, but if they said Baz was lazy or miserable, lacked enthusiasm, that would floor me. I wouldn't want that to say. And you know, my strappings are old fashioned. It was really funny because I caught a couple of the lads on match days, didn't want me to put the strappings on, wanted Vass to put them on. But as I pointed out to him, I said, you know what? Wazza never bothered. And Rashford never bothered. And TC and Nev never bothered. Raheem never bothered. But, you know, if you want Vass to put your strappings on, it's not a problem to me. But it's enthusiasm. And that's so important to that. And do you know what? I remember once Josie Fiomo saying to me, Baz, you happy? You smile every day. I said, I'm working with you, aren't I? He didn't get it. But yeah, and when you're working in football, it's not work and that. And I'll be honest with you, Ben, there's been a few times when I've driven into A, B, C club where I felt like SHIT and I don't feel great and things aren't great with other things. But you know what? I leave that at the gate and I come in and I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bang, in the house. And that's how I work and that's how I'll always work. And you know what? If you're injured and you've got a long-term injury and the physios are miserable, what chance have any of us got? So that's it. Enthusiasm, mate. Positivity.
Just on that
Nobody's
question.
ever died. I've been a physio 25 years, no deaths.
That's a stat. That's a
great
stat.
Record. That's some record, isn't it? I'm so proud of that.
On that question, I've said over the last few podcasts, I need to start reaching ahead to get some feedback on that question from others that have actually had the experience of working with whoever it is I'm speaking to. I've done it for the first time. So I've got some feedback. I asked that same question about you to a couple of people, and I'll tell you who they are after. I won't mention them on the podcast, but I'll give you the quote that they gave. So I asked one of them about your biggest strength as a practitioner, and they put, first of all, they said, he's a legend. And I was like, that's great. Can you give me a little bit more constructive feedback? And then they said, he's obviously a great practitioner with his knowledge and experience that goes without saying. But one thing I loved about him was his infectious personality, positive, and his ability just to make everyone smile and happy, which I think is absolutely crucial day to day.
Well, I've caught you smiling twice already.
Exactly. And then I've got another one. So that is a coach that you've worked with recently. This one is actually a player that transitioned into coaching as well. So he actually said that you were at a club just before he got there, but you actually went back to the club, I think, a few times when he was there as well. The fittest physio I've ever seen, he started by saying. He was out running players on all return to play sessions, very knowledgeable, got a story for everyone, and can rap too.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes.
Just one of those larger than life characters. Every day is a new day with him.
Yeah, but I try and be humble as well. The physio's got his role. I'm not a player. I'm not the manager. You know, I like to bring enthusiasm and energy, but I'm not running the show. I'm aware of the role of the physio. It's a sophisticated role. You know, it's not all about me. You know what I mean? You know, I like to contribute, but yeah, it's really funny that, because, you know, when you go to a new club, which I do every year now, when you have to sing, don't you? So about 5 years ago, I really like Eminem, like, you know. So I developed this this rap, and like, when it, particularly like a Forest at Wigan, Blackpool with England, I've done it 6 times, the same thing. And you get to that Friday night, first one of the season, and a few lads there, nervous, you're quaking and that, and then the spoon on the thing and that, and there's a chair and that, like, you know, and then somebody else goes, oh, it's Baz's first trip, so I'm always last to go. And I always go up and I say, lads, I don't even know any songs. I'm an old guy and that, like, you know. I said, I tell you what, somebody shout someone out and I'll try and sing it. And then I say, what? The final rap scene from 8 Mile. I'm 63, not 23. But you know what? The gaffer always says, do your best. I have seen the film. Let's have a go. Obviously, I know all the words. So it's fair to say people weren't expecting that. I think you're going to do like Frank Sinatra or something, like, you know. But yeah. And when I was with Montserrat, we had some incredible wins. And I don't know if you've seen that film and the final rap scene and that. It's incredible. It's probably the best part of movie history, I would say. That and when they first see the shark in Jaws, probably, or when the head goes round in The Exorcist, like, you know. But because obviously I'm white and all the Montserrat lads are black and that, and we do it in the dressing room afterwards, and they're all got the background noise singing. And big Adrian Cliff, the guy who's just doing what at Born Wood, like Cliffy, he stands up in my face, like when I'm doing it, like on the television, like in the movies. It's unbelievable. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, but that's kind of those people to say that. So that makes me proud and humble, and that, and makes me feel like I've kind of done a decent job.
Not only that, though, I think the fact that you're so honest and telling the story, and people can take so many lessons from you talking and about your experiences, I think that's key as well. So I really do appreciate you coming on and doing this. I think it's been incredible. I could have talked all day. We've gone over an hour and it's literally felt like a blink of an eye. So I really appreciate you doing it, Mick. Just remind people again, firstly, where they can get the book, but also where they can follow you, social media, like give us your tags on there.
I'm just on Twitter, aren't I? So am I at Mick Rathbone, I guess, on Twitter?
I think
at
you
Mick
are,
Rathbone. Yeah. I went on Instagram, but I couldn't work it out. So I'm on that, but God knows where. So it is just Twitter, basically. If anyone wants to email for advice, it's mick.rathbone@hotmail.com. If anybody wants any advice, I want to help. I've had so much out of the game. I want to give back. I want to put back. I want to help anybody who needs anything, any help to meet up, even like, if they're local and that, like, the book is The Smell of Football 2, and it's only available on the one website, and that's www.thesmelloffootball2.co.uk.
Incredible, mate. Thank you very much, Mick, and let's stay in touch.
Great. Thank you very much. Bye.